the brands we're talking about today, the Bao, the Tonkotsu, the Pizza Pilgrims, all these brands that we always thought we were building the platform for, they've been very hard for us to get to. And it's only been quite recent, like in the last year or two, that we have actually started working with them.
Yeah, no, we started working with small independent restaurants that would find us online and as we said, like wanting to be online quickly, and everything that we've done over the past 5 years has been built on the back of these small independents. As we've evolved, as the vision has evolved, the product has evolved, we've been able to go upstream and work with these amazing brands that we've known historically through what we've done before.
Welcome to Captive Conversations, brought to you by Captive Wi-Fi. I'm your host, Adam Foreman. This podcast brings you the best stories from suppliers, marketers, and operators from our beloved hospitality sector. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone. Episode 54, I think. And it's actually happened. It has happened.
The one you've been waiting for.
The one I've been waiting for. And I managed to corner Christophe at an event because everyone said, ask Christophe. There you go.
I wanted to wait for episode 54. So
yeah, we had to wait after 50, right?
Okay.
So the big five, we did the live.
You just had to establish the show a little bit so I can turn up here.
I appreciate that. we need the big products on now, right? So from here, it's only got to go up, right? So now I'm stuck. I mean, who's going to go on next?
It's been very smooth tech-wise so far. No glitches at all.
It's only been an hour. If I knew I was doing this, which I did, I would have, of course, pre-organized everything. But welcome to the studio / lunchroom, tech room, and everything else. Thank you for coming. Such a very long way. It's not that long, to be fair. And I appreciate you coming. We've worked together for quite a while. We've known each other for a very long time. I don't know if I had hair when I first met you. I may have had a little bit of hair.
You did it.
So I had a little bit of hair. No, I'm sure I'd
all gone already.
No, I definitely had some hair. It was very thin. So you had, yeah, okay. So, but yes, so today is to learn about you guys, really. People know you because you've been in the industry for quite a while, but not everyone new knows you. And you both had an interesting story and come a long way and pivoted. So, yeah, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. But before we do, you can choose each question if you like, or you can both answer them. So Nick from Yoke, it was the last person on, and his question was, what is your earliest food memory?
The only thing I could remember, we talked about this on the train coming, was like eating an egg. And I was at my grandparents' place, and there was food at the table, and I was 3 or 4, so I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't eat it. I was complaining about the food. My parents were not very happy with me. My grandma said I can do an egg, and I ordered it doesn't really work in English, but so I can't explain the whole thing. Basically, I got confused between the Sunnyside eggs and egg and soldiers.
Yeah. And
I wanted egg and soldiers, and she did Sunnyside eggs. So I cried when I got the egg, and I got a slap from my dad. And I think it's the first time, the first thing I remember, but it's the oldest memory.
It's also quite fitting there was from Nick at Yoke as well.
He looks very young, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to go, or do you want to choose the next one? Okay, what motivates you, Angus? You should have chosen the first one.
Should have been the first one. I think what motivates us, I think like one of our core values in the business is raising the bar. And I think, like, for me personally, what's really satisfying is showing operators in the industry, other partners in the industry, like how much better their work can be when the right tech is delivered in the right way. I think that's what gets us out of bed, right? And it's building something that adds value to the business, building stuff that people actually want to use and engage with on a regular basis, because I think all too often products in our world are just bought, sat on shelf somewhere and never looked at or logged in. And I think, when people get stuck into StoreKit, both guests and operators, there's genuine excitement, and that gets us going, right? Fuels us to do.
I like that diverse into what motivates us. I like that.
We talked about it ahead of time, but it's one of our core values is raising the bar.
Yeah, which you do, because I've seen it. So okay, perfect. We're going to go on to the standard questions. So you can do it. I'd like to hear both of you, to be fair, if you haven't pre-done them. But best hospitality experience.
So for me, it's going to sound like I go on holiday a lot. I go on holiday sometimes, less often recently. I got engaged in Barbados during COVID, which is a lovely place to get engaged. And we went to a restaurant called Tides, which is a fine dining restaurant on the beach. Beautiful setting. Obviously, for me and my now wife, it was a very memorable day anyway. But what was really interesting about that experience, and it's not something that I could put my finger on there and then at the time, but I kind of thought quite deeply about it afterwards, is there's a very clear separation between service and hospitality. There was one person who was assigned to our table to take our orders, clear our plates, top up our drinks. Amazing. They were kind of in the background. They popped in when they were needed. They disappeared into the background again. There was also another person responsible for our table, responsible for our section, whose sole responsibility it was to make sure we were having an amazing time. And we did have an amazing time because of that person. And I think at the time, I couldn't necessarily put my finger on what felt so good about that. And yeah, it's this separation between the service giving and the hospitality. And actually, that plays quite nicely into what we do today, right? Enabling operators to give amazing.
Oh, well, right, come on, no. We're not talking about the sales piece. We'll get on to the sales piece. Seriously, Michael. Like, I literally had someone on about, I don't know, 3 months ago. They started teeing into the product every single time. We're more on you and the story, and not about what you. Because we're coming to that. We've got loads of time. Well, depending on how much time you have, we've got plenty of time to talk about the generation and what you do and how it makes the industry better. That's later. Let's talk about just you. So that's really interesting, and I agree with you. If you can, if you're able to do both, you're going to excel, right? So, what about you? What's your best hospitality experience?
Have you been chances? I'm a very man of simple taste. So,
do you not think, like, back in France, right?
Yeah,
you go to a bistro, you walk in, and the owner's going to walk out and be like, "Ah, welcome back." Blah, blah, blah. Do you not think that's like an awesome experience? Or you're just used to it?
Yes, it is. But I mean, the one I was thinking about was that last weekend I went for a Sunday roast to my local pub, West London, a place called the Tavern. They don't use any technology. It's very old school. I had an awesome roast outside with my mates. That was great.
Yeah,
and
it's consistent, right? Is it consistent? Is that why?
The food is pretty good at Tavern. Yeah, but it was particularly good this Sunday. So you should have gone there. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Best hospitality tech. I wish I had a button for that. My buttons are broken. Oh, they're not. They're back. Here we go. Let's do. I'm going to do a. Not that you heard that, but it's down here. So best hospitality tech. Do you've used maybe personally? Because I know it's a challenge. Obviously, and not yours, unfortunately.
So it's a tough one, right? It's a tough one. I mean, I think one thing that I don't really have a favorite tech, to be honest with you. I think what's interesting is I've seen more and more people coming to help the space choose their tech. Like more pressure came here, Robbie for reversibility. I think there's an ecosystem developing of people who help people choose a tech. Because it starts one size fits all. There's many different situations, sizes of businesses, types of businesses. Pre-shift, reversibility are really, they're not technology.
Yeah.
But they're delivering the technology.
I guess they're doing it really well. It's that consultant, right? Because now, listen, back in the day, there was only a couple, which was sort of you got 3-ish. And, but back in the day, there was you either get done by the EVOS company, because you spend 20 grand on something you don't know how to use it. And there was no choice of where to go. Now there's not hundreds, but there's quite a lot of technology consultants that look what you need and bring in the best of class in, right?
Yeah, I think they've become more relevant because there's more technology available. I think technology becomes more necessary. It's also that I think for restaurants, they're short staffed, they don't have much time, they're not necessarily tech savvy, and having someone they can rely on really helps these businesses build resilience. I think it's quite a smart thing to work with technology providers, services.
I agree. I like that. What about you? Are you the same?
I'm the same.
Okay. So, I know this is going to be easy. I concur.
That's the one we talked about for a very long time. We couldn't come up with a good answer.
Yeah. I guess if we said type of platform, you'd be like, ordering. So, if we weren't to say type of. But anyway, all right. So, we're going to go back in time from the early doors. So it will be either of you, basically. So I guess before you founded the business that you originally started, when we first started, it'll be really interesting to hear where it first began, like where where technology came from. Did either of you work in hospitality before? Did you work at a pub, in a restaurant, or where did the journey start? So before even StoreKit, and we'll talk about the other brands, but I mean, you want to start?
I think it's worth getting Christophe's side of the story, and then you can get my side of the story.
Okay.
Well,
Because Angus is more impressive, so he wants to.
Well, when I met you, Adam, was probably back in 2013, 2014. Angus has just joined me on the journey at that time.
But what were you doing? What did you do before?
So I started.
Let's go way back.
Yeah.
Christophe.
I grew up in France. Studied business economics. I worked as a consultant for 10 years in France and Australia. In Australia, I discovered the coffee culture. Came back to Paris, opened an Australian style coffee shop. We called it Kookaburra, for those who know. It's a famous Australian bird, kind of kingfisher. It's a really beautiful bird. And yeah, I basically worked with my friend for about a year. Went on to do an MBA. Kind of wanted to go back towards like a more commercial career, and then on the back of that, kind of find a way to mix everything up.
So did you? Was it just? I mean, obviously, tech stack back then wasn't really such a thing.
No, but that's what I thought. So in this coffee shop, we had like the most basic, French point of sale, whatever it was, and the card terminals provided by the bank. Exactly. Yeah, that was it. And then serendipitously came across this American iPad-based point of sale company back in 2012, 2017. Found the product really interesting. There was this idea that at the time, small businesses again had very limited clunky tools. Or they were really expensive. And using a consumer good, a consumer item like the iPad, put that in a business, gives them a SaaS kind of tool that was constantly updating and getting better, and giving them a lot of data that can use to get better. The idea of helping the little guy become as good and getting as much data as the larger company on the high street. I found that story really compelling. The tech was interesting.
Was that in France?
No, so I came across that company that was based in California, and I came to London to launch it. The software was only in English, so couldn't launch in France. But I was very very open after having lived in Australia to come to the UK. I was quite excited about coming to live in London. And I came to London, got a distribution contract with that American company. And
no, it was a hit. That was a
2-pager contract.
Yeah.
And hit the streets of London, bought a single speed bike. I barely had any money at the time, and started going around Shoreditch and East London, mostly knocking on doors of coffee shops. And Angus joined me on that journey, maybe 4 or 5 months in. I was fresh out of uni.
Yeah. How did you know each other before?
No. You answered it's quite a funny story actually. You answered a bunch of job ads, right?
In working startups, not too many. I think there were a couple. There were 2 job adverts I answered in working startups. One was working with Christophe. I think I originally applied for a job. I was too early. As in they needed somebody immediately. I was still at uni. They'd hired somebody else, reached back out. Unfortunately, that original person hadn't worked out, so they had a space on the boat. And yeah, the rest is history. The other job I'd applied for at the time was I think 3rd or 4th Pilgrim at Pizza Pilgrims.
Oh, really?
So I was going to go in one of 2 directions.
Yeah.
Either I was going into the industry or I was going to work alongside the industry.
4 then, but now you work with them.
4 with them,
That's
exactly.
Hilarious.
So it's kind of full circle.
That's quite a story.
Where did you go? So did you work in Oslo before, or was
So I came to this world directly from uni. I think I left uni down in Kent, didn't go home, came straight to London, started working within a couple of days. I worked a number of jobs in hospitality, when I was a kid at friends' pubs, friends' dad's pubs, collecting glasses, filling ice boxes, stocking shelves. At uni, I ran a boat party events business in Hong Kong and in London. So throwing parties for students, bringing people to London. All of that kind of pushed me to want to work with the industry in some shape or form. And I remember seeing this job advert about this amazing tech that was really changing the way that restaurants were able to do business. At the time, it was a very novel idea, using iPads in a business context.
Where was the ad?
I think it was Working Startups.
Okay.
Which is a pretty cool little platform. I think
did you write a good spiel? Was it a good spiel?
It was a pretty good spiel. It was quite compelling. I think they played the Silicon Valley card, fast growing, rocket ship.
I mean, the 2 of us started to hit the streets, and
so good question.
Yeah.
when you met, was it just like because you do really bounce off each other really, really well. Was it, I mean, obviously there's learning over the years, what was it like when you first started working? Because obviously, listen, my first guy that started working for me, you guys probably met him as well when you first started, to be honest with you, like, I don't know, 14 years ago or something like that. He started and he's been here forevermore. What was it like, meeting, like, because obviously you're on your own, right? And you're doing it, and then you obviously put the ad out, and what was it like sharing that or building out that relationship? Because it's like a
So my very first memory of meeting Christophe is not what you'd expect, actually. So my job interview was not a traditional job interview. My job interview was come to this trade show. I think it was maybe the casual dining or lunch show at the time. Come to this trade show and sell POS.
We wanted to stand on the pitch slide.
Yeah,
pitch slide.
First, sell the pen, right?
I'd never really sold anything before. I'd never really worked in tech before, so I was kind of completely making it up at the time. But I remember meeting Christophe for the first time, and he was a bit standoffish and a bit aloof.
Yeah,
that was my first impression of him. It was a bit of a slow burn for those first couple of weeks, but we got there in the end. We're in a better place.
Couple of hours.
So what do you do? This is the platform. Go sell it.
Essentially that, thrown into the deep end.
Yeah.
Here it is. Figure it out and try and sell it to somebody.
So did you have Robbie down 3 corridors?
Yeah, pretty much at the time. Yeah, exactly. I met Robbie, who was competitive.
Yeah.
At the time. But yeah, no, we worked. You're right. We get along well. Obviously, we're partners together. I think the relationship has changed from we have just over 10 years difference. So he was really fresh out of uni.
Yeah.
And I think now, obviously, we're very different space in our lives. So yeah.
So then, okay, selling pause. Are we going to talk about the pause, or are we going to not talk about the pause? Can we mention the pause?
I mean, we can mention it. Obviously,
it sounds like an element of the pause. To be fair, it isn't really a pause anymore. It's another. It's like a. It's a flowing away ship, isn't it?
It's an interesting topic, right? No, but we sold Post at the time. Initially, that product, which was called Rubble,
yes.
And then
I'll be honest with you. Looking at back in the day, it was awesome. It was so beefy. No one else was doing it. I remember going to my office on the Charlotte Street. I remember the PayPal check-in. I don't know if you remember the PayPal check-in.
Yeah.
I left my phone in the office. I checked on PayPal, walked to the coffee shop, and was like, I've checked in. They pressed a button on the till. My face popped up on the freaking till, and they were like, I've done it.
You're probably one of the only ones to have used.
I know what? Well,
it was very cool.
You know what? It was really cool. And nothing's happened. Nothing's like that now.
Yeah.
And that was how long ago? I mean, some of the stuff they were doing was awesome, and some of it was a beefy product, and it just got beefier over time. And I remember loads of people having it. It was probably the POS of, thanks to you, it was the POS of London. I mean, everyone had it. Like literally anyone who was going to change something, that wanted to change into fast technology, because that was probably the only iPad POS in the beginning. Obviously, Robbie was around.
It was definitely the only one, like serious one. I would say that. And yeah, we started working with. When I actually Pizza Pilgrims, we used that post in the early days. We worked with Granger, Honest Burger, Black Sheep Coffee. But that was really interesting for me, because I was meeting all these entrepreneurs in very early stages of the development of this company. They had one side, two sides.
So did you find it, because you in the past you obviously you had your own place, right? So did you find it was easier to sort of like understand their pain, their journey, because obviously you had a location, you were selling POS. Was it like do you empathy for them, understand that their pain points, right? It was technology that they just didn't have.
Yeah, I think I guess your question is like, how did we make that product appealing to them?
Yeah.
I think we were lucky, because that product was really good, really strong from a feature standpoint. Deep product. It was appealing. Being on an iPad was exciting, and a lot of these entrepreneurs I mentioned were just young and getting started in the game and ambitious. And yeah, they saw the potential of just getting a better tool, getting the staff to use it better, and getting more data. And they were feeling quite uncomfortable with the alternatives, essentially.
And so were you doing like what other people are doing now, that consultancy piece? So you do sort of POS, you advise them on what to plug in,
helping restaurants choose and implement stacks of tech.
Which no one was really doing back then.
POS, stock control, card terminals, making sure it all worked together. We would be on our phones on Saturday, Sunday night taking support calls for printers that had gone offline. I remember there were nights where we were in Soho and in Honest Burgers behind the counter trying to get things working again. So I think, yeah, we really cut our teeth, like learning deeply how a restaurant functions and what happens when tech goes wrong.
Right? I think the interesting point for there is that you're going against others like who have been out there for years, right? Back then, who the support was like, I'll call you back in 4 hours, and then we're trading. And then there's you guys that we are.
And I'll send someone with a screwdriver.
Yeah, I'll be there in an hour. Actually, I'm in Soho already at a pub. I'll pop down and sort it out. That's I mean, it didn't exist back then, right? It was call your IT company, and the IT company would call the POS, and you'd have a whole.
It was call Adam.
Yeah, wow. I remember. I have a memory. So your memory of Christophe being, I remember you guys coming into the office to basically tell me about Rebel, and you left, and I went. Christophe was you were like. You basically sold it like it was the king of kings, right? Now, I've seen it all, and you're probably remembering that from other conversations. And you left, and I was like, this platform must be like the best thing in the world. I mean, like, it must print money and gold. Like literally, the way that you sold it was like, and then you were like, and it was really funny. It was really because you left, and I was like, I've worked with a lot of POS companies, like on the IT side. This sounds too good to be true. But anyway, it was, and then we had loads of mutual customers, which was cool. And yes, we were the fixers. Happy to be out there to fix it. I remember being having Black Sheep's super admin to try and fix, because some of the stuff was difficult, right? It wasn't like some of the new stuff was pretty smart. Now their stuff was like locked down and stuff. But I have memories of installing Rebel in the past. I think I put those memories away. But yeah, so and then it went to payments, because I remember you were doing POS, and then you started to do. Did that come afterwards?
No, I meant yes.
Or was that in?
It did come afterwards. Like we started that maybe a couple of years into the project. I think what I realized is that, and it's still valid today. And I think it's interesting if people in hospitality listen to this. Is I realized that for us as a provider, there was a lot of money to make in payments, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
So we were selling a complex product, a point of sale that requires quite a bit of savviness in terms of selling, presenting the value proposition, setting it up, implementing post-sale service. And then you had someone coming and setting in car terminal. They quite often sign them on the spot. So we sign the restaurant on the spot, very little thinking, on the 4 or 5 year contract, and they would make 3, 4, 5 times the money per month than we would. And that was obviously unfair, but there was the way to resolve that was basically to bundle the two products together.
Yeah, but they got completely ripped off. So the guy would. I remember being our client. The guy would turn up with his suitcase and a contract.
Yes.
Give me your passport. You wrote the passport up and down. He goes, give me your what's your bank details? And then he fucked off. And then all of a sudden, about a week later, not even that, the terminals would arrive, completely non-integrated. And who's this guy? The guy with the suitcase.
Yeah,
and
that's how the industry was built. And so the payment distribution industry, you would, if you opened a restaurant or a retail store, you would quite often buy your car terminal from one of these guys you mentioned, or maybe from an high street bank. But in that case, you would pay quite a lot of money. So people would find these distributors. That's how payment centers, for instance, started. Right?
Yeah.
Then they grew super.
They had like a billion. They had a billion.
They had a huge business, but what you have to understand is like these are not very. This was a commodity. So if you want to be good at selling commodity, you got to be very efficient at sales. And these are a sales machine. They're not interested into understanding the business. They just want to sell this car terminal as fast as possible. So we came from the other angle where we were actually really interested in tech. And we added the payment.
But you're also fixing a problem.
And we were fixing.
How long was it integrated? How long was it integrated straight away? Or did
it took some time. I mean, now it's again like integrations are commonplace.
Yeah.
At the time, yes, it was quite a bit of work to get things integrated and be compliant and go through.
Listen, you're on the other side. I literally, as I said, remember our client just literally was down the road from here. They couldn't get the payment. I think they couldn't get payment sent because the owner was. Thai, and he didn't have everything with him. So I called the guy I know, because there's always a broker, right? And literally he turned up with this briefcase, signed it, didn't really care. if you didn't have all the correct details, and off they went. And I think they used them until probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And now you look at all the rates being swung left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
Especially with integrated payments.
Yeah.
So,
But I think a big problem today is still that operators want choice when it comes to card processing. And there's been a lot of pushback on POS companies who push their own processing on these venues. I think the argument there, as Christophe has alluded to, is you have these payment companies on one side of the equation making 90% of the revenue opportunity from a restaurant with 5% of the problems, and then you have a POS company on the other side making 5% of the revenue for 95% of the problems.
Yeah.
And that was really the world we found ourselves in. We were supporting these terminals, they would go down, we would have to reconnect them.
Yeah,
make
your
no
responsibility.
money. If the POS is down, it's a key part of the business. We're getting shouted at. If features aren't developed quick enough, we were the ones getting shouted at. And we weren't able to, with kind of standard software model, extract enough value for that to make sense.
Yeah.
And I think, as we get into the StoreKit product and the StoreKit journey, that kind of feeds into
So
what we've built today.
before we start in that journey, where did you get to? You got tons of clients. Like where did you get to? Like as in client base.
With the initial distribution play, we had about 600 restaurants.
That's awesome.
I think at the time we were very hard on ourselves though. We look back and we realize how good of a job we'd done over those years. And compared to traditional POS companies, we'd outperformed them significantly. At the time, it always felt like it was too slow, never quick enough. You always want to do more.
That's the founder sort of mentality as such, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
It feels that way, right? You're always wanting to have more. But so then Rebel came here and built their team, and what happened then?
Well, I mean,
they were, classic big company coming over. Oh, hold on. Someone's brought us a ton of customers in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing really well, as Angus just mentioned. Then, for many foreign company, the UK is a very obvious entry point to the market. The American company, the UK, language is the same, obviously, and that's what they did. Our expectation was that maybe we would join forces with them. We're not interested in doing that, surprisingly, and without going too much into detail, they launched direct, but then still we're not able to sell more than we did, and so decided to basically stop working with us. So it was a bit of an ugly story that led to something
big American company.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not unheard of, right?
No, exactly. But I think any distribution in any industry, I think if you have a reseller that does really well somewhere, there's a temptation for the originating company to sell directly to those markets. And we were also discovering that space, so I don't think we protected us, very well. There's been a lot of personal lessons around this, but the good thing is obviously we've decided to pivot the business from that point. Yeah, and obviously we didn't have that software to sell anymore, but we decided to work with a bunch of other companies.
Yeah, do you feel that it helped you actually open up a bit more? Because you were locked, you were sort of that was the product that you had.
Well, I think it forced creativity. Right?
Yeah,
it's just as this great product to sell. I was selling really well, and then suddenly someone takes it away from you. So you have all your setup, which is essentially a commercial setup.
Yeah,
you sell really well. You have expertise. And the problem we had to resolve was like, okay, we have that asset. Well, how do we get the business to survive and thrive again?
Yeah.
We started working with quite a few other companies. We worked with Zettel when they were around. They just changed name.
Yes. Was it?
iZettel and Zettel.
No, it wasn't. It was. What was their POS called that they bought? Intelligent POS, and then turned it all up without telling them. But so you went with that. Okay, fine. So I think, listen, everyone has challenges in business. I think that when something like this happens, you learn, and it makes you stronger and better, because something like this happens to you, you pivot, right? I mean, you pivoted a few times, but it pivots and you learn, right? So I remember them coming, and I remember that 30 staff and all these people showing a big flag, and the service level just literally disappearing, right? And they're not here anymore, and so it shows you.
No, it's quite interesting. They brought quite a few salespeople, and it didn't work. And we've seen that more recently with other companies.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty hard to sell in the UK to sell to UK restaurants just with an army of people. It doesn't work. It just never works. I've never seen anyone do it.
Yeah, and I think that it was. I also think it's a really beefy product, and you can't just give it to someone to start. I think other products are out there. You can actually get people to start slowly. That one, you need someone to really
your hand hold.
Yeah, you need someone to take you through the journey. I've seen it. I mean, and we were terrified at the back end of it. It was like it was scary. It's still. I mean, it's probably still is scary. So when someone asked for, we wouldn't touch anything. I'd literally just change we would potentially change printer stuff. I wouldn't be anywhere near it. So anyone we knew that were growing either had someone internal learning for it, and their new support was terrible. So it's a shame. I think that it was a good product back in its heyday, and there are better ones now. So okay, so then you went from working with more partners.
Yes.
And then were you still doing the payments thing?
Yeah, I mean, we have this idea of okay, we have this setup, this expertise. How can we create value in the market? And we had the idea of building a marketplace. Let's build a money supermarket for restaurants and retail technology, and let's help these entrepreneurs in the country choose their point of sale, their inventory system, their loyalty platform, their website provider, their payment provider, their equipment, their printers, and try to put that into what was a website, essentially, where they can find compelling, interesting, useful information.
And I used it.
Yeah,
I remember even calling you. I think it was a Studio Proper. I think it was.
Yeah,
that was one of the scanners. So, yeah.
I tell you something. That stuff, and I remember speaking to the guys in Australia, because I can get it here. I love the money, and that was like the nicest. I'm being a bit of a geek here. I'm so sorry, but it was the nicest technology stuff that you stick on an iPad. Like no one had this stuff, and you could buy it in America on like some photography company. Like they relicensed it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was awesome. Unclip and the everything about it. So I remember Sam Marvis calling again. I need 50 cases, and we're going to come collect them now. So were you doing not because you obviously been pausing the box as well. Some of the cool stuff you were doing was like someone go on the website and go, oh, hold on, I'm opening Askware business. What do I need? I don't need to speak to a consultant. Hold on, I'm just going to go buy pause in the box. And you were literally saying,
we're trying to offer a solution, right?
Yeah.
Again, like you just have so many things to think about and so many options within the technology choices you have to make that we were trying to simplify it for them. And the hardware was, although maybe not such an exciting part, but tech was necessary. So yes, we put a lot of effort into finding physical equipment that we found were nice, like Studio Proper, like Heckler, like bounce pads, many of these.
Some of the stuff that you have was like you couldn't.
So we're very nerdy, as you can see.
Yeah, I understand.
I can still remember your brand.
I love the bounce pad stuff. I mean, seriously, I think one of our clients has some bounce pads, and they wanted it was like we want to use loyalty. I was like, if you want to get drill through the cameras because they bought it without the hole.
Yeah.
But some of the, I mean, I remember getting some where people would bring it into us. They'd lost the key. And you'd have to use like a crowbar to get the thing out. Yeah. So it's come a long way, hasn't it? It's interesting. So you built that mass because you had like, I don't know, 150 some products on them. It was crazy.
I mean, we had a lot of products, but we also the play was really to recommend software and payment processing.
So were you then taking that and going, right, we can wrap our services around it?
Exactly.
Because people are lost, right?
The strategy there was a ton of cool new cloud-based tech in the space, all of the names we've just mentioned, and especially in the POS world, the hardware was a very painful part of the entire process and setup. So if you were to buy a beautiful cloud-based EPOS system, what was happening previously was you being sent to a website from the 1980s, or you were having to call up a distributor somewhere to order a printer and a cash drawer, and it was just a horrendous experience.
I actually think some of those websites still look like the 1980s.
Some of them still exist. And I think for us, strategically, what was interesting is, okay, if we can make that whole e-commerce experience beautiful, and we haven't actually talked about Ben too much, but we can get onto his side of the story soon. We can then we're able to segue into conversations about all the other interesting parts of the stack, tech, payments.
So did that open the doors a bit more to like, because I think back in the day, I mean, Amazon was getting busier. Not many people were. The boom had disappeared, right? The .com boom. People will go online, but they were still a bit lost. I mean, now people, it's easy to find stuff now, but I think a lot of people were very lost, right? Do you find that brought a ton of leads in?
Yeah.
You were. I mean, the site was pretty cool. So did that bring in someone who either inquiry or bought POS in a box, and then it flew into like the consultancy side?
Exactly. Somebody wanted a really easy, beautiful way to buy a printer for their POS. Great. Let's get you set up and let's talk about everything else that's interesting about your business. And sometimes all they needed was a printer. Sometimes that evolved into something much bigger where we could help them.
So then are we now up to...
Well, at that point, that is StoreKit.
Yeah.
Right? So we built a website with Ben, was the third co-founder.
When did you meet?
2014. 2014, he came to help us build our website as a reseller of Roll.
And he was a reseller.
He was part of the team. He was part of the team at the time.
Oh, okay. Okay, fine. So he was brought in to
Exactly. It's a bit of a growth marketing, growth hacker, website, SEO, paid ads. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, he did a really impressive job. Built it was called Bluebird, the company at the time.
Yeah.
Built the website. We generated lots of leads. Very unusual character. Really self-taught. Works from home a lot. Doesn't come out. Is king too much.
A little bit. What's that? A little bit.
Sometimes no. But
if we go to the pub opposite his flat. So.
But he was basically. The results we had as a small company was really good. We were really able to get lots of leads, lots of engagement from potential customers for the website.
Do you think he was a bit beyond his time bringing you up there because you were really present online? I mean, it wasn't like you were doing.
He was really good at it. Obviously, the product was good. He wasn't involved in sales, so there was a lot of customers that we signed up, but he really helped grow that business and to the next level and put us online, really on the map.
And funnily enough, for the first year of that business, we didn't have a website.
Correct.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the first 300 restaurants was just word of mouth, knocking on doors, cold calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is.
And here's my Gmail.
Yeah.
From the basement of a restaurant in Soho.
Really?
Yeah, we started in the UB Sushi. It was at the corner of Big Street and Mexican Street.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the friend of a MBA alumni that I know, and yeah, I just randomly met this guy. He had a space for an office downstairs. We paid him around, and that's where the Field Group started. And for a funny story, UB was one of the first restaurants on Deliveroo.
What was that?
Yeah. So Nicolas, Swiss guy, who was the founder of UB, we got in touch with Will Shu from Deliveroo. And yeah, when Will started to open Deliveroo, I think he started in Mayfair. And then he opened, Marylebone and other spaces. UB was the first sushi restaurant.
Yeah. Where was it in Big Street, you say?
Big Street and
Was it right on the corner? Was it folded sushi?
Yeah, exactly. The hand sushi.
It was like the first ever triangle sushi that I could never open.
Yes.
Because I still can't open them in other places. I rip open the wrong side and I leave really upset and then I just shove it all in my face. But I remember it because I had clients around the corner. So I walked past it loads. It was right on that corner. Yeah. That's a great location.
No, it's a great location. So that's how I met Will Shu at the time. So it's quite funny because Will kind of suggested they could join the Deliveroo team, like as the first employee. But I was obviously busy doing my other things, so I didn't do it.
Thank God.
Yeah. Here you go. But yeah, so going back, what were we talking about?
So we went to, that's your office. We went to Ben building the web because you had no website.
Yes.
So that was interesting. But back then, I don't think you really needed it, to be fair. It was more over running around and
exactly. It was heavy lifting, knocking on doors, telling the story, getting people excited, and it was these, as Christophe said, these young food and drink entrepreneurs who were already looking for a better way to do things. It's just no one was giving it to them.
Yeah.
And then what we found, though, and I think that's something we've been using and keep using today is we found that we were talking to young, ambitious, brand conscious entrepreneurs. They really had a vision that they wanted to raise the bar and maybe build something that was better than the competition, something that was unique. And these guys were choosing our product, which was a unique product. And we found that selling to this community and this type of merchants really allowed us to grow, and it puts you on the map. And these are, opinion leaders.
I think you most likely had, because you had the founder-led stuff, you had the path to entries easy. Because they're like, you're showing them, you sold them the dream, but it was really new tech that no one was doing. And they're in now, you go in, and it's so different because there's everything everywhere, right?
Yeah, but I think you can still, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm bringing it back to StoreKit's.
Yeah.
Exactly what we're doing. We're trying to build the coolest company that, again, if you're an ambitious, young, visionary entrepreneur, that's what you want to use.
Yeah, good tech. Okay, so then let's move to the website's built. Ben's building the website. You built StoreKit, right? So StoreKit was the online store for.
So we built it on like
V1.
It's a big e-commerce operation on the equipment side.
Huge.
Yeah, it was big. Yeah.
And so you must have moved office by then because you had storage stuff, right?
Surprisingly, yeah. I mean, we did.
We moved above the sushi restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
Once we could afford a bigger office.
Yeah,
we moved. And then
Same address.
We moved to Regent Street.
that was it. I remember one of my guys running to Regent Street, grabbing a box and ton of stuff.
We had a very.
Can I get a credit because I've got some studio proper stuff still in there. I'm good.
But that was probably the most expensive storage space in Regent Street.
Were you in that service offices in Regent Street? Like when
No, we were in we had an incredible deal with the Crown Estate, but it was still funny to just have. We had a whole room with storage like printers on Regent Street.
Above Viraswamy restaurant on Regent Street.
We were Michelin star restaurants. Really funny.
Because you didn't get this count now. I have a printer. Okay, so now we're into the territory of Regent Street, StoreKit, the online store, POS in the box, consultancy, multiple solutions. When did we get to that? Was it the?
Well, we tried to bring
Boris Johnson says, by the way, stay at home, everyone.
So we build it. We build this marketplace. As we build this marketplace business, we build expertise and knowledge in the market. We know the providers. We have an ambition to build our own software company, and we basically are playing with ideas. We have this marketplace. We sell other people's product. Could one of these products be ours? And could we develop our own software? And we play with a few ideas, most of them being extremely boring around the theme of payments, payment gateways, card machines.
Yeah, because I guess that's the route. You already had that piece. Right?
Exactly. And then the pandemic hit, and everything shuts down, everything stops.
And all of a sudden,
what do we do?
People didn't need printers, cash cards. They didn't need advice on tech.
No.
They didn't need any of it.
No. So I met with Yo-Yo when they were Yo-Yo at the pub just here in the corner, and we were sitting having lunch, and they were telling me about their product. Now it's amazing. And then my wife's like, you should really come home with the lockdowns tomorrow. And we had already prepared here. So, my wife was already like way ahead of everyone of what was going on. So the boys all had, go bags, everything else. And then they're like, oh, we'll see you next week. We'll carry on chatting. I'm like, I don't think we're going to be chatting next week. So, So I think someone came in the other day and they said, I wish not that it was the same thing again, but I wish technology had the force again to be pushed, because it really did push everyone to build, right? To iterate, to change. It was a huge force. And no one wants that again, obviously, but there are people that are a bit like, I wish technology would literally expand like quickly and fast. So what was the core moment? Like you obviously no more active clients, right? No more service. No more service. What was the conversation?
Well, what happens is one Monday morning, Ben goes to the office and says, "Well, I spent the weekend because the office was open. Maybe we shouldn't say that, but we kept going to the office."
you were key workers because you had hospitality businesses that were still open.
Yeah.
So I was the same. You were allowed to be working because you had key work. You were key workers.
I mean, mostly, yeah.
You were Don't you say you should be in the office? And also it's your business. So you were allowed, whatever it might be. You had brands that were still selling to who were still open. QSR is still selling, even though they were sort of closed, but they're still doing delivery. You still need to provide a service, right?
Yep.
So you're okay.
So one Monday morning, Ben comes to the office and says, "Listen, guys, like over the weekend, I've just gave myself this little challenge. I built a click and collect platform.
All of this pre-AI, by the way, in a weekend.
Yes." Out of nowhere. So it was very serendipitous, right? And we have a laugh about it.
Was it something in his mind already, or was
no? I think he was again. I think he just gave himself a problem. Ben is not here today. Maybe you come on a future episode. No, episode 104.
Maybe I'll come to him. I think I'll come to him. I'll take this to him. This is fine.
No, Ben. He's a builder. It's someone who gets a kick out of.
No, he's 100% a problem solver.
Problem solver and building things and then seeing people use it.
Yes.
That weekend he just built that pre-ordering platform with very basic functionalities, and the idea was quickly why maybe that can help some of our clients. We had a book of restaurant customers at the time. I don't think it was a business idea in the very first instance, but quickly it became. business idea, because we realized actually knowing the space very well, running a marketplace for that type of product, we knew that the competition wasn't really strong. I'm not gonna mention names, but we knew
no, it's dog shit. No offense to anyone. It really was. It was horrific. And then also all the others were like crazy service charges, and it was painful to use.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it was reminiscent to me to what I had read in the retail space. So I was looking up to a company called Shopify, which is, I guess some people will know, it's a company that helps you build a website for e-commerce. So if you're a store, you want to launch a shoe store, an Apple store tomorrow, you can go to shopify.com. You can create a website, upload your catalog, manage your inventory, and do a whole bunch of complicated things. This is not sponsored by Shopify. Shopify, as you can imagine, there's a ton of e-commerce platforms that were built, over the last 20 years. But they've somehow emerged as one of the winners, probably the main winner in space. They're a Canadian company, and I think that they've done a few things really well. And one of the things that we were looking up to was this idea that their brand disappeared behind the brand of the user. So if you're apparel brands, you create your brand, your website is all about your brand. And maybe you find Powered by Shopify at the bottom, but it was very much about empowering the entrepreneur to run the business. And then the other thing that was really appealing, and particularly to Ben, was such like customer experience UI obsessed person, was people enjoy using this tool. So entrepreneurs enjoy using Shopify. It's easy to set up. They can understand it. They can access the functionality. You don't need to be sold that product. And we found that really appealing, and we found nothing of that sort existing for restaurants.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, think about back then, there really wasn't anything that wasn't fully branded X, fully branded Y, or internal use of X, Y, customer journey. I mean, it was Deliveroo and Uber, really, who would sort of were going with it, right? Because they were just their own units, but there was nothing for the customer to use.
And there was nothing that was built with the view of optimizing for both the guest and the user of the restaurant on the other end of that equation.
Mm.
As in, it could be pretty for the guest, but really painful to use behind the scenes, or it could be easy to set, but hideous.
I'm going back. I remember you were doing it for nothing, right? I think from in the beginning you were like, start now, get going.
Yeah.
We were in the middle of the pandemic. Everyone else there was scrambling, and you were like, just sign up and use it.
Yeah. I mean, that was at the start. We were lucky that we could build alongside the industry, right? So we'd been in the industry for whatever it was at the time, 7-8 years. And we had a bunch of restaurants that we knew personally that we could go and talk to, that we could build the product with. And we also understood that there was a need for these operators to be online yesterday. And at the time, many of those had never been online before. So the idea at the time was, okay, let's just help these guys get online really fast for free, help them through what we thought was going to be a short-term shutdown. And we can try and figure out a business alongside that, or we go back to doing the marketplace after that. And very quickly, as Christophe said, like, feedback was good, traction was good. There are a few kind of alpha customers that we really spent a lot of time with, getting feedback, input into the product to make sure we were building with the industry rather than building something we thought the industry needed. With a caveat that while we were getting that feedback, we were also very opinionated on what others had done wrong before us. Which we still are today. Just kept.
So it's quite interesting because we found ourselves in this position where we've built a product that's very sleek, very functional, easy to use, and super fast to set up. And we've been running this marketplace and this POS business we talked about before for years. And then suddenly things go bananas. We have restaurant calling us saying, this is the best thing ever. We don't want to go to what we had before. Are you guys making enough money for that? So our, satisfaction score goes through the roof. We make actually quite a bit of money because we managed to monetize it smartly through the payments, which the restaurant doesn't notice because they're used to pay the fees on the cards anyway. And they thank us, which as a point of sale provider is very rare. So something has happened, and really this is pretty much the moment, talking May, June, where the cogs are turning and we realize actually there's something there. and we can build them for the future. I think Angus made an important point here, which is this two-sided platform. We're a B2B company at core. So we are here to power the business of the restaurant. We're behind their brand. We empower the operators. This is fundamental. The white label, the feature we build, everything is about helping the restaurant grow. At the same time, the UI and the consumer-facing side of the platform is absolutely critical. And lots of companies have done what we have done before to please the restaurant, but they actually don't please the customer. And same thing, you have a consumer kind of plays that have built ordering apps. There's been lots of entrepreneurs with the idea of let's build a consumer ordering app, the universal one, the one that every business is going to have to be on. And well, Delivery's done that because or Uber Eats, they've been able to aggregate demand. But if you were a B2B provider, like what we found is that no other B2B provider had managed to build a consumer grade facing, experience. And that's quite challenging. And also the restaurant didn't realize that at all. And a restaurant operator doesn't know what consumer grade UI means. So we really had to teach them and show that by explaining, but also it took us a lot of time in building conviction by social proof and getting the right brands to work with us. And now it's really flowing because people see the brand we work with and like, yeah, okay, these guys can make a mistake. This is probably the right way to go. But having these two sides was difficult.
So let's talk about challenges, right? Because it all sounds wonderful. What was the main thing? I mean, obviously, I think you benefited really having those brands working with you during the build, right? Because without that, it's a really key piece of your history. You were able to have some really cool brands to work with you and have the trust in you, and you have the trust in them to help you build and make those features work. Because in normal environments, it would just take a lot longer because everyone's too busy. No one has time to tell you what's going on. They're too busy. So I think that I give you props for that one. That's pretty awesome. But what were the main hurdles that you found throughout getting that set up and then changing? Because you guys are continuously iterating. It's not like this is a product and Q4 we're going to release this thing. You guys are continuously pushing.
No, you're right. And I think one thing that surprised us is that we had a book of customers when we started building this, but none of these customers actually used StoreKit. So when we built that platform, and we had to find new customers to use the platform, and they were random people. So the first restaurant that used StoreKit significantly was based in Leigh-on-Sea. It's a guy called Frank, found us online. Yeah, amazing guy, loves technology. And he was running a place that's now called Brick House, changed name. And it's a diner, it's an American diner selling burger and fries. And he was the first restaurant and to really use StoreKit and put £100,000 through the months of May or June 2020. Frank is the initial customer, and a whole bunch of people in the following winter. The brands we're talking about today, the Bao, the Tonkotsu, the Pizza Pilgrims, all these brands that we always thought we were building the platform for, had been very hard for us to get to. It has only been quite recent, in the last year or two, that we actually started working with them.
Yeah, no, we started working with small independent restaurants that would find us online and as we said, wanted to be online quickly, and everything that we've done over the past 5 years has been built on the back of these small independents. As we've evolved, as the vision has evolved, the product has evolved, we've been able to go upstream and work with these amazing brands that we've known historically through what we've done before.
No, I think. Another challenge we faced was adoption. I think you talked about. It's quite funny that because I didn't remember that. But you mentioned the PayPal stuff, the PayPal check-in, where you could order, pay with checkout, your face would appear, and it was working really well. But as I said, no one was using it. So consumers were not ready, restaurants were not ready to push it. They didn't know how to push it. So it's quite interesting. And we've seen the ordering apps around for a long time, but it just seems like something has clicked in the last few years. I think COVID may explain that. But this idea of right place, right time is important. It's very hard to predict. And what we've seen actually, yes, we started building this platform in 2020. It was a very small project. It's not like we made a lot of money through pandemic. Actually, we didn't at all. But we came out of the pandemic very strong with a vision. We raised a bit of money from UK investors in 2021. In 2022, we started. no one wanted to buy our stuff. Like the restaurant didn't want to hear about digital QR ordering.
I think it was COVID fatigue, right? So we started building the product. The growth curve was exceptional. We were all unbelievably excited, and then as things slowly started getting back to normal, things dropped off, and we returned to like a more sustainable growth curve. And yeah, post-COVID 2022 crickets.
Well, so the crickets again. So I did. Hold on. Where are they? My crickets. Here we go. You can hear it. Yeah. So that's a challenge. Like you're. I keep doing this thing. There are the challenge. You see, you end up on this huge high, and then people are realizing I don't want QR codes anymore. Everything's fine. Back to normal.
It was terrible. It was terrible. I mean, we didn't grow. We basically we lost quite a bit of volume. I think we lost 60-70% of our volume in that year compared to the year before. The positive signals were that we're not losing that many customers. So it was interesting because restaurants were telling us, "We love you guys. This product is great. We don't have such a use case anymore, but we're gonna keep StoreKit in." We really struggled to find new customers, but the ones we had didn't really leave, which I think was different from
that's
what we
awesome.
heard in the
Compared to
industry.
churn rates, if you think about normal products.
Yes, exactly. So the churn rate was not great, but it was not as bad as you could imagine. And then things have started to stack up and increase and get better again in 2023, 2024.
So when was the moment where you because you changed the product continuously, and I think over the last 6 to 12 months, it's just I think it's a completely different product. Like it looks.
I mean, Ben will tell you we have the highest kind of product velocity of any platform in the space globally. Like the speed at which we release functionality, the speed at which the team works is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to him at the Elite event, not Piggy, but it was Piggy Button. And I was in awe of just talking to him because he was like, I mean, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And I talked fast. We were talking together. It was great. And he had a couple of drinks, so he was more chilled out, and so on. But it was, but it was really interesting because you literally have, I think it's like chocolate cheese. I mean, I remember the first sort of iteration of what it looked like. I mean, I can't believe that till then. I think you sort of need on your wall in the office is the photos of how it's changed. I mean, from the little things that little pieces are releasing. So I agree with you. I think you are really taking that note. And also you're not doing everything else. So you're focusing on what's good and building that individual platform, what we're doing, and not basically diversifying into, we could do this as well now. We could build a pulse, we could do this and so on. You're basically focusing on that individual product and making it excellent. So I have to give you props for that one. It's
obviously tempting to build other things, right? And it's we talk about it a lot in the office. I think what we're doing is really hard to do. And yeah, we're really trying to build the best platform of its type globally, and I think we're heading in that direction.
Okay, so we're going to tee quickly into catering because that's something that's newish as well. And it looked pretty awesome, to be fair, and that's pretty well. What was that like? Was that on demand, or was that something you'd had planned?
No, that was really driven by looking into what other restaurants are doing around the world, and we haven't touched on it too much, but we really talk about ourselves as a revenue platform, and part of the ethos is helping restaurants drive revenue, right? And I think, I'm not going to dig into all the problems the industry has right now, but there's a lot of elements of the industry where certain types of operators need to diversify their offerings, or there's going to be casualties, and there's already casualties on a daily basis, right? It's tough out there. And we were looking for ways to help operators make more money. And looking around, what we saw in the US, for example, which was really interesting, was you would go to major cities, you go to Boston, you go to New York, and what you'd find is not just groups, but single sites, small, little Italian neighborhood restaurants. 10% of their revenue would be made up of catering, both B2B, B2C, which was all of a sudden really interesting because when you looked at similar restaurants in London, there were very, very few that were getting anywhere near that number. It's obviously, your specialty players, your Pures, your Pretz, the classic lunchtime sandwich cart. But there was no, kind of cool casual dining brands that were really killing it in catering. And so we wanted to bring the platform to help those operators drive towards that 10% of their revenue. Started with that. How can we help these guys sell more? Built a platform really specialized around optimizing for large orders. Catering isn't necessarily a new concept, right? There's been tech out there for a while. You have Just Eat for Business, Uber for Work. and then a few specialist catering platforms. I think on the marketplace side of things, amazing for customer acquisition, but ultimately giving away a huge chunk of your revenue when actually, if you're a decent brand, somebody might be looking to order your brand for catering to their office. And we've done quite interesting research around this, which we're going to release soon, around the journey that people take to find their kind of outlet for catering. The other side was platforms that were built specifically for catering. But what we realized is for whatever reason, whenever a tech platform built for a catering use case, all of a sudden, the needs of the guest on the other side of that transaction seem to change. And so if you looked at a catering specific software, the ordering interface and the flow that you had to go through as an office manager, as an EAPA, was extremely painful. When actually that person sitting behind their computer in the office trying to order for 50 people is the same person that's sitting at a table ordering a pizza for their family at the weekend. So why don't you bring that digital experience from a kind of consumer ordering side into that B2B experience? And yeah, it's going well.
Yeah, catering is really quality revenue for the restaurant. It's a revenue you can control. You can develop a sales channel to actually find your catering customers, large orders. You can make the economics work, and you can pay for the delivery. So we think it's an interest, and also we're obviously offering all these differentiated channels, even just the click and collect, the delivery. So catering comes on top as a very strong added value kind of book.
I think there's an awesome revenue stream. People aren't doing it. People are doing it now. Like at the no-brainer. Back in the day, it was City Pantry and all this sort of stuff. That they were making killing.
I mean, just for business, is making a killing and taking large commissions. Yeah, I think the restaurant complain about it a bit less than the Deliveroo's and the Uber Eats of the world. Maybe because of the size of the transactions better, so the economics work a little bit better. But there's really an opportunity to do that direct and add it on top of their in their P&L.
And the opportunity is massive. Like the restaurants we know doing it well, they're making a lot of money doing it.
Yeah.
And it's simply because there's not many brands that make it easy for business orders to be placed.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Always that you try and get that order in, and it just never works properly, or you're not really looked after because you're either going through a third party, and you sort of get lost. So at least you're now going direct, right? And they're saving the money. Okay. Come to the end, so congratulations. We're going to quickly talk about vision for the future. What's coming? I know obviously you've got some info coming out about catering. They're going to share to the world. What's the vision, or what's Ben thinking of now?
I think it's still right. We're always, as we said earlier, trying to raise the bar, trying to build better and faster. Obviously, now more than ever in the age of AI, there's even more pressure to accelerate. I think, we've been focused on doing one thing exceptionally well, and that's really nailing that restaurant ordering payment experience across multiple channels. Now it's about optimizing for brand and guest experience, and making sure that UX is really on point, making sure that as we're building a product we're proud of, we can build something that restaurants can be proud of when they implement it. I think something that's obvious to everyone that works in this industry is people don't open a restaurant because they want to get rich. They open a restaurant because they're really passionate and proud about what they do. And I think our platform helps them do that. And we're trying to build aspects of the tool to the product that help them be prouder and really put their brand front and center. Bunch of stuff, obviously, as you can imagine, around AI, revenue optimization, revenue generation on the cards that's coming out pretty soon. What else is happening?
No, I think the AI stuff is important. Lots of recommendation. I mean, we already have AI-powered recommendation. It's not just machine learning; it's a bit smarter than that for upsells, so at checkout. But there will be more things coming this year in terms of recommendation, in terms of auto bundling instead of dynamic menu, in terms of menu, building a menu of one, right? That idea that you've been to a place, you should get a different menu than the one I get. This is the kind of thing we're working on. The POS, everyone talks about the POS. Will there be a POS in 10 years? I think that probably will still be a POS. You need to have that central repository account data center. But I think tools like us are gaining influence in the day-to-day operation. So we'll probably build more customer-facing kind of applications, probably some waiter-facing applications. Lots of people are trying to push us towards building kiosks. We've been very reluctant against this because, again, we're very focused on the mobile ordering. It's quite interesting to see hardware developing with tablets coming with that are NFC enabled. So maybe all these different applications will kind of merge. So yeah, lots of things. Again, we're not. I think the one thing that is very clear is that there will be more digitalization of that's kind of quite an obvious thing to say, and we're not. We're looking at probably not cut that part.
No, it's it. I mean, what's really exciting and like
he was going off on a riff. I was like, keep going. This reminds me when we met first. You were like, sell me the dream. Sell me the dream. I'm definitely not cutting that. I'm really sorry. It's definitely got okay. It was awesome. Sorry, yes, Angus, you were saying.
I think like more and more restaurants are building their business on StoreKit, right? So your independents are launching with StoreKit, building the cool sandwich shop on the corner, pizza shop on the corner, running their business through StoreKit. And now moving upscale, we have more and more casual dining brands who are thinking about the guest and what the guest wants, putting the guest in the middle of the conversation. Whereas, a couple of years ago, it was okay. The POS is in the middle, plugs into the POS. And
so I met with someone today and he said, are we going towards headless POS? Which is very interesting. So it's like, that POS is in the background, right? This is like what Toast did, before McDonald's brought kiosks. They had one POS in the corner, all kiosks, and they had someone in the restaurant going, do you need any help? What can I help you with this? Guiding them through. And so do you think that's going to come? Like eventually it's going to be, the POS is still going to run because it needs stock control, it needs this, and you still need that.
Yeah.
But the future, I think, anyway, from what I see is that the platforms that are helping you make more money. So whether you guys have the ordering, you have the QR ordering, you have the online ordering, you have the catering, and you have the WeChat, for example. So then everything can be leveraged, and then the data is all in the same place. So you really end up understanding you're on table 12. Potentially the reservation information is being fed in from the POS to you. The customer is. The opportunities are like crazy, no?
Yeah, but I think the restaurant industry in the UK moves relatively slow. I remember we were trying to push iPads as till systems 10, 12 years ago. There are still operators today that would laugh us out of the room if we tried to put an iPad in there. And so I think there are definitely early adopters who are asking those exact questions to us, and we're asking ourselves those questions. And that becomes more obvious as more operators put the guest at the center of their tech stack rather than the operator or back of house stock system, which has historically been the case. I think we're going to get there pretty quickly. We already have a bunch of casual dining chains who are digitizing the entire front-end restaurant experience. But I think, as Christophe said, it's going to take a good few years until the POS is entirely redundant.
I think it's really interesting. Now you have some of the bigger brands and the bullshit brands out there that have the beefiness to say, right, can you do this? Because back in previously, you had a lot of clients, right? You had a lot of clients, but when you start to get the names, and start to get your name in the industry, they come to you and say, I've got an idea. And when someone like that comes to you and says, I've got an idea, it changes the aspect on actually how does that happen? How does that work? Because it's hard, right? You got a 100 restaurant company comes to you and says, we want to do this.
No, I think it really depends. I think we started again with a few random restaurants. We started with Frank and a few others. We really built on the back of what's called like a long tail. So lots of like single site companies working with us. We have built a community that still exists today called Slice Stinger, which is the independent pizza shops community. Many of them are on StoreKit. And it's only, and what we've done is that working with all these individuals over the years really helped us build a very sleek product. And this larger company didn't want to work with us at the time. But what happened that we've built now the product so deep, working with all these independents, it's so powerful. We're now adding like a bunch of multi-site features on top of it. And these multi-site operators see that product, which now is suited to them, the depth of product and the ease of use, because we had to make it easy for the local pizza guy to use it on the go. They love it. They just really love it. They really, and I don't think anyone has done that in a similar way. in that place.
It's quite interesting actually, because as you're saying, it's the little pizza guy who just wants to make it easy. This needs to be easy.
It is to be easy. Yeah. So we have Vincenzo. We've done released a video recently with Vincenzo was like.
He's in Bushy, right?
Yeah,
I'm busy. It's not far from where I live. It's ridiculous.
And that's exactly what he's saying. It's like, I'm not tech savvy. Can't do the accent. I know that's good. But tech savvy. I need to be focused on the pizza. I can't deal with operation, with orders, with payments, and he's delivering the best pizza.
He's an artist, right? He's passionate about what he does. The tech should work for him.
Yeah.
Make his life easy.
Yes.
Simple.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it's very relevant for, these larger brands to have a provider that thought about all these use case and let.
Well, I think it's pushed you to do it. I think it was the generation of how it's been built, because generally tech doesn't get built that way.
We did it intentionally. I talk about Shopify. This is exactly what's happened. So that was the plan. That was always the plan, to start small and still start, winning the
foundation, basically. That foundation of ease of use,
exactly,
simplicity.
We have avoided the situation where a 100-site business would tell us what to do. We've been in certain of this conversation where we stepped away because we didn't want to build what they wanted us to build. We wanted to build a use case that was really scalable and, help us build the product step by step. So
it's like if they build it, they will. If you build it, they will come. Right? I think that's the way I see it from when we speak to. It's weird when you speak to like 50, 60 or 80 plus. It's not the marketing team you're speaking to. It's not head of operations. We find it's the head of IT you're speaking to.
It depends.
Which is really really interesting. Like, I'm like, do you have any you manage to pause? No, we just run into technology. It's my job to deal with all the technology now. So pause and anything we're putting in is my remit, which I find really interesting for like a CTO that might not necessarily have full hospitality experience. But anyway, I'm gonna tee on, but we're gonna go. I'm gonna give you a. They can all they can hear that. So that's a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming. I could talk forever, and this is going to be awesome. But let's get to the last questions and the final questions. Best restaurant?
The restaurant I've been most to since I came to London, they know it. I've told them it's Granger and Co. It's just they have it's comfort food, breakfast food next to my house.
Yeah,
go there very often. So I'll say hello to them. Yeah.
What about you?
For me, the one of my best experiences was the one I mentioned earlier for the fact it was a special occasion. I think in London, my go-to is Blacklock. I have two favorite desserts: cheesecake, bread and butter pudding. For a long time, that was the two desserts on the Blacklock menu. The cheesecake, the bread and butter pudding isn't there right now. But yeah, always.
We'll have to make a conversation about the bread and butter pudding. Blacklock is awesome. Okay, best burger. I know it's difficult because you have customers as well, but come to your experience, best burger.
My go-to, and they don't work with StoreKit yet, Black Bear, the miso buttered bacon burger.
My impulse answer is Five Guys. Sorry.
No, I think nothing wrong with Five Guys. Question is it all the way, or are you selective?
What do you mean?
So all the way is all the toppings. So when you go in,
I'm selective. I'm just listing all the topics every time. But I have a bit of attachment to Honest, because I met Phil when he was store number 2 in Soho, and so I really saw them growing.
Well, fixing their printers, basically.
Yeah, I've done all the content. Yeah, it was painful. So I have I love that brand. So sometimes I go.
Me too. I think they're doing an awesome job at the moment, and that's the Smash side is just, killing it. Okay, best hotel.
I stayed in a really cool hotel in Panama. So it was on an island in a little area called Bocas del Toro off the coast of Panama. It's on a little island. It's called La Loma, and it's a cocoa farm, rainforest lodge, and the rooms are beautiful, and they're all open to the elements. So you're in your hotel room. There's no windows or walls. You're in the canopy of a rainforest. So there's monkeys swinging around at night. And I think what was really cool about that place is it's a cocoa farm, and cocoa comes into every aspect of the experience, and it's really experience-led. So you wake up in the morning, hot chocolate on your doorstep, freshly baked cookies, and then in the evening, farm to table, community, kind of family-style dining, so you get together with all the other guests. Every course on the menu contains an element of cocoa. Amazing. I've never been anywhere like it.
And you?
I think my favorite experiences. I try to go to Greece every year. I had a Greek girlfriend a long time ago, and I fell in love with country after the girl. And I've been there. I've been there pretty much every summer in the last 8 years. And I just love staying like a guest house. You open the door in the morning. You see the sea. The food is always great. You get a spanakopita. You go down the beach. That's the life.
That's the life.
It's a life for a few days in summer.
Okay, so now we're on to the 2 questions for the next guest. What do we reckon?
My question, I think, I mean, we talked about Shopify. I think that inspired us, so maybe that's a good question. What is is that a business person? I guess it would be some sort of business person. So what business other than yours has inspired you on the journey to get started, or in the decision you've made to run it?
And the second question.
We've got one serious, one stupid. If you had to describe yourself as a vegetable, what would it be and why?
I love that. That's perfect. One serious and one crazy. It's fine. I Sam Brown did a crazy one with like, what 5 liquids come out your hand? I mean,
what vegetable would you describe yourself as?
No, that's for the next guest. That's from Dave.
A banana. It'd be Sicilian lemon. You know, a little bit spicy. You know, a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. All I can think of is fruit. You 2 said fruits, and I can only think of fruits.
You said vegetable, didn't you?
Yeah.
No, I didn't think about vegetable. That was crazy. All right. Anyway, I'm going to give you a round of applause. You can't hear it, but someone can hear it, and they can hear it. So thank you so much for coming. You can give everyone. Oh, that camera's gone off, but that camera's on, and that camera's on. So we lasted the battery. Good. So give everyone a wave goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.